Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Kevin Kosar of the R Street Institute recently wrote about the right way to bail out the post office, and he joins me now. So, Kevin, what is the single biggest problem that needs to be fixed right now, and maybe more importantly, can be fixed?
The biggest problem is that the Postal Service's revenues and operating costs are structurally out of balance. In short, it runs deficits year after year after year.
So it's as simple as that. So what is being done to fix that?
Just about nothing. Congress has not done postal reform since 2006, and that was a very modest bill. It didn't really try to reimagine what the agency should be doing in the 21st century. And that's, unfortunate, but we certainly have a time to take another crack at it, and we desperately need to. Paper mail is the main business of the Postal Service, and mail volume has dropped 33% since 2008 when the Great Recession hit. Most mail that is sent by businesses, government, not-for-profits, and a lot of them were moving to electronic communications, and then when the Great Recession hit, they just went whole hog and pulled a lot of their communication stuff out of paper. And, if you're a business, if you're trying to cover your costs, which the Postal Service is a government business, it's a government corporation. If you're trying to cover your costs and your main business is severely eroded, you're going to need to adjust your costs. And the Postal Service really struggles to do that because of a number of factors. You have Congress who dictates that the Postal Service must carry paper mail 6 days a week, even though the Postal Service doesn't want to do that. You have, a price cap. The Postal Service, for most of the postage it sells, can only raise its prices by the CPI. So it really doesn't have to do with consumer demand. It's just set in statute. It's one thing after another that has kind of tied the agency up and put it in a spot where if we're not careful, taxpayers are going to have to bail it out.
So right now, the way I see it is this whole vote by mail situation is sort of being exploited, I think, to sort of raise alarm and bring attention to the fact or the notion that the Postal Service needs more money. But what we don't really get a handle on, with the exception of your piece and maybe some others, is what is actually what the Postal Service is actually spending its money on, because the vast majority of the money goes to personnel, which makes sense. I mean, I think that's fairly typical for a government type of agencies. Schools are similar, but explain a little bit the retirement obligations and where exactly the money is going. And if they were to get a bailout, we've heard anywhere from, the union has said we need $35 billion. It could be as high as $75 billion. Where is that money going, and is that actually going to fix the problem?
Yeah, throwing money at the Postal Service is just an inherently bad idea. Listeners may be worried that the Postal Service is going to go bankrupt and just, not open business one day. We don't have to worry about that happening for a very long time. The Postal Service has close to $14 billion in cash on hand. The CARES Act that was passed in March gave them additional $10 billion in borrowing authority. So they got plenty of liquidity. I should also note that despite COVID, which is driving down paper mail, the Postal Service's revenues in quarter 3 of 2020 are actually $500 million higher than the revenues of quarter 3 in 2019. And that's because everybody is shopping online and a lot of parcels are surging into the Postal Service, more than it has ever received before. So the Postal Service is okay on kind of a day-to-day cash flow basis.
So then why are we having these emergency hearings? There was one Friday this week. There's more this coming week. What's with the emergency hearings?
This is a situation that is greatly divorced from the real problems of the Postal Service, which is what we're talking about. There's been this whole panic created that there's this evil Trumpy plot to control the Postal Service, to cripple it, as the New York Times op-ed columnists have said, so that it can't deliver election mail, and somehow that's supposed to help Trump win re-election. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense, and it's a huge amount of drama driven, in great part by a lot of misunderstanding and flat out misinformation. So, we got a Senate hearing today, which was mostly sober and fact-based. I think everybody can learn a lot from it. I hope people will be less likely to panic after having heard what came out in the hearing. There's going to be another hearing on Monday, and then Democrats in the House are going to force a vote on a bill that basically would just hand the Postal Service $25 billion and ask nothing in return. And I think the Senate will probably not act on it because the bill just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Why would the House Democrats do that?
They've been looking for an excuse to throw cash at the Postal Service for a long time. They are extremely close to the major postal unions. There are 4 of them, but there are 2 of those unions that the Democrats are very close to. The APWU and the NALC. Those are very long-time associations with Democrats. They've wanted more cash for the Postal Service for years, and they see this as the opportunity to get it.
Interesting, because both of those unions have endorsed Joe Biden for president, which, that's their right to do. But you would think, and this is what I don't understand, and maybe you can help me with this. I don't understand if Donald Trump has this scheme to slow down the mail, and I looked at their various reasons, and it basically comes down to the Postmaster General has proposed cutting hours, reducing pickup times and or routes and those sorts of things. But it seems to me if they want to elect Joe Biden, they're going to do everything they can to make sure all those ballots are being delivered. What am I missing?
Yeah. No, the whole conversation is nutty. I mean, one of the things I pointed out last night is that you had people freaking out that mail collection boxes were being removed in Portland, Oregon, and this was taken as a sign of vote suppression. And I said, last time I checked, Democrats tend to win that state in each presidential election again and again and again. So what exactly would this achieve? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make much sense. And look, the Postal Service does have $150 billion in unfunded obligation, pension, retiree health benefits, borrowing. It's got structural deficits. It needs some new equipment. It needs a brand new vehicle fleet, which is grossly outdated. And if Congress wants to put some money towards those specific purposes, then I think that's worth a discussion. But just throwing $25 billion at the Postal Service with no strings, that's just reckless.
Well, and there's this, as you alluded to, there's this hysteria about removing postal, the mail boxes. And the Obama administration removed thousands. It was like 14,000 boxes over the course of the Obama-Biden administration. But you know what? Every home, every apartment building, every office, you can leave your mail there in your mailbox, and the mailman or mail person, as we're supposed to say, will pick it up. And so this idea that just because they might be eliminating some public drop-off boxes and suddenly your ballot is not going to be counted is insanity. Do you think, as a result of this hearing in the Senate today, my guess is that the tenor in the hearing on Monday will be different because the Democrats will be running it. Kevin Kosar of the R Street Institute, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back.